Hey guys, Zoose here. So here is a cheat sheet for Neeko mid with Arcane Comet as the major rune. Now if you want to get into a game right now and try this out, just pause the video and you've got all the information in front of you. Otherwise, we're going to go straight into everything and go through all the details. So Arcane Comet, great for poke champs. This is going to give you that extra bit of damage after you land an ability. Now she's got two decently, I'd say her E is a nice long range ability and her Q is a mid to long range ability as well. First minor rune you want to get is Mana Flow Band. In some lanes, she's actually going to struggle just because of her low mobility, and I wouldn't say she has the best range, so someone like Syndra, for example, would cause a huge threat, so you may find yourself having to farm really long range using your Q to get all that CS, and this is going to help you, especially if champs are close to the minions. You can get those extra procs on your Q, which we'll go over, and you'll be able to farm pretty safely, and you'll have pretty good wave clear. We will be comfortable enough to CS pretty safely. The other two minor runes that are worth noting is Nullifying Orb. Now, as I mentioned, Syndra, someone like Syndra, or someone who's got a lot of poke and a longer range than you, like Xerath or Ziggs, you could find it threatening. So taking Nullifying Orb is up to you. If you feel like you're in that situation where you need this, go ahead. Her ultimate actually would require a little bit of movement speed for you to get a optimal combo on more than one champion, and this could actually work, so I'm gonna mention it. Now usually I haven't mentioned Nimbus Cloak on a lot of champions just because it has very little optimal use for most champs. Someone like Talon is perfect with, someone like Neeko could work perfectly as well with her ultimate. Absolute Focus as the second rune. Now this rune at the moment is one of the best since the celerity has been nerfed quite a few times. It's safe to say that Absolute Focus is okay in most situations. Now, Neeko will probably have to go in pretty deep to get her ultimate, an optimal combo with, more than one champion. When you have to get that close as a squishy champ, you're probably not going to be full health or even above 70% health. So this is situational, but it's still such a safe rune that I can guarantee this will come in use most of the time. As mentioned, Celerity. Now her W gives her a nice burst of movement speed. On top of your movement speed from W will help you either get away or get close. And Celerity, after its big change recently, I would say give this a go as well. See how you feel with it. If you need the mobility in the game, what kind of situation are you in, go with Celerity. And of course, Transcendence, another really good rune for her. 10% CDR when you reach level 10, and you get extra AP as you exceed the CDR limit. Now, Transcendence depends mostly on your build, so I think in most cases we're going to build quite a bit of CDR, especially with Zhonya's and maybe Lichbane. So it could be pretty optimal depending on your build, so keep that in mind. And the final rune in the sorcery page is Gathering Storm. One of probably the best runes right now, just because it scales so well and gives you that guaranteed AP that you're going to get, especially at the 30-minute mark. It's quite a big boost. Now, over 40 minutes, most people don't expect games to go that long. As for the other two runes, Water Walking could actually be very useful as well. If you plan on roaming a lot, you could make the use of this movement speed. Causing havoc against their junglers could be an option here, so keep that in mind if you're willing to try that out. But if you're up against a hard laner that's going to punish you, then not the case. Now Scorch is being nerfed quite a few times and it's considered one of the weakest runes right now. Again, Gathering Storm, just the strongest rune here. The second page you want to take is Domination. Now I put here Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. These two runes are really good for sustain and keeping yourself high health in lane. Now if you're going with Absolute Focus, I would almost always take these two just because they complement each other so well. Since this does more AP, the more health you have, you definitely want to take something that's going to help you sustain that HP. Another option here is Cheap Shot. This would work really well with the E and Q combo. So as soon as you root that enemy, you get that Q damage off. It's going to activate the damage from Cheap Shot. So a good consistent start to lane with Neeko is Doran's Ring and 2 health pots. This is going to give you enough of HP, mana, and ability power to do everything you can in that laning phase to poke out, farm safely, and just generally sustain. The first major item you want to get is Luden's Echo. The amount of AP, mana, and cooldown that this gives is going to be exactly what she needs to just poke out and do damage from a safe distance. This Arcane Comet build is going to complement this item really nicely. You get an extra burst, extra AP, and the safety that she has already with her E and Q combo is enough to poke out enemies to about 50% of health. The build path is also perfect. getting that Lost Chapter in lane, and a Blasting Wand if you need the AP early as well. Sorcerer's Shoes for the second tier boots. Gives you the magic pen and movement speed that you need, and just one of the best items for mages. The third item you want to get is Morello Nomicon. Gives you a bit of health, lots of AP and magic penetration, and of course the Graven Wound is just an extra added bonus. This is probably one of the better items so far in this season. Pretty good value for gold as well. Third item you want to get is Zhonya's Hourglass. Ability, armor, and cooldown reduction, and of course the important active which makes you invulnerable for 2.5 seconds. This item will give you a lot of ways to engage, go in deep, hopefully you can get more than one champ in your ultimate, burst out that damage, get those stuns, and then as soon as you're in a risky position, hit the Zhonyas and let your team catch up. An amazing playmaking item that will work perfectly on any Neeko play. Fifth item is Void Staff. Now, depending on the enemy team, if they're all building MR, which they usually are at this point in the game, Void Staff is one of the safest items to buy just because of the amazing magic penetration percentage. Now, Rabadon's Death Cap, if they're not building a lot of MR and you're snowballing pretty far ahead, this can also be a fifth item. It can also be a fourth item, depending on how far ahead, but generally the price range and the build path this takes is a little bit more awkward than the other items. So I've mentioned this later on, but always viable early on. The increased ability by 40% plus 120 is just going to completely decimate once you hit anybody with a Q. Situational items I've mentioned are Mercury Treads. Of course, if they're stacked with lots of AP or lots of CC, you want to get these boots ASAP. As well as Ninja Tabis, if they're stacked AD, this is one of the best boots against AD champs just because of that 12% damage from basic attacks that gets blocked. I've mentioned Lichbane here. If you have the opportunity and you're in a situation where you can get close and auto attack, even though we've gone for a more of a poke mage sort of rune page and item set, this can still be useful, especially if you find yourself maybe able to even split push. Doing those extra tower shots is going to help you push and just take towers really fast. Now, she already has her third auto, which does a lot of damage to towers already, but this will just amplify that. I've also mentioned Spellbinder here. Just because of the active, I really like how the movement speed can help Neeko out. Because she kind of lacks a huge gap closing, like a blink, she still has quite a bit of movement speed from her W, which can be used with this, and you can make a lot of plays happen. So I put these last two items just for a bit of playmaking if the situation is there and it's optimal. So that about does it for this build and rune page. I haven't really gone into depth about Neeko because she's a new champ and a lot of people want to know how she works, so I'm going to make a separate video on her gameplay, her strategy and tips. She's got a lot in her kit and she's introducing something that we've never seen before, and that is turning into another champ. The amount of mental outplays you could do and mind games you can play, especially bot lane with the brush, with fake juking, with fake ganks, is crazy. So there's a lot of potential there and I'll make a video just for that. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video.